Hey guys, welcome to the last episode of our last Watch for 2023. This is it. We've just got a few hours left in 2023, and then it'll all be over with, and we'll be moving on to 2024. And honestly, does anybody care? I was thinking about it today while I was preparing for the show, and I was thinking, man, I remember just a few years ago how when kind of the year was winding down kind of toward the end of the year, and I would think, man, I hope that the next year brings this or that, or I hope we have a prosperous year. I hope this happens. I hope this movie comes out. I hope this happens. I hope everybody you know does well. I hope you know my kids have good jobs and happy lives and all that stuff. And now, honestly, I'm just like, I hope we survive the next year. Like, I hope I have enough money to feed myself and put gas in my vehicles and pay my mortgage and keep clothes on my back and feed my dogs. And just, I hope I have enough to survive. It's not, I hope I make a lot more money or make this. It's like, I hope I make enough to survive. Like, I hope I get by. And I don't really ever remember uh feeling like that. I don't ever remember like this sense of like foreboding or just hopelessness. um in fact, I was thinking about it, and I remember, like, not too long after I got out of the military and moved back home to Kentucky and lived there for a couple of years, and like worked in corrections and did some stuff. And we kind of made the decision that we were going to move back to Alaska because even though I had the job in corrections, that's not really what I wanted to do. I was making like $10 an hour, and that was a good job. Like, that's a job you retired from down there. That was, you were living high on the hog, and it wasn't even a living wage, and that was a good job. And we kind of made the decision, like, we're going to move back to Alaska. And right before we had made we made the decision, but right before it could happen, we went through a house fire. The place, my parents' house that we were staying in, like, burned down and lost everything. Like, we had a whole house full of furniture, clothing, just stuff that we had accumulated during our time we'd been married, and it was just gone, just everything. And there we were. Basically, I didn't have a job. I just left my job. We were getting ready to move back to Alaska. I had nothing, like no earthly possessions whatsoever, no roof over my head, nothing. I had nothing and was basically starting over from scratch, like completely over. And I think I was more optimistic then than I am now about the way things are going. I'm like, I might have to be hunting my food next year. Like, who knows what's going to happen the way things are going. Maybe I'm just doing too much doom scrolling. Maybe I'm just like on uh on social media too much, and just doing too much doom scrolling and just reading about things and the way things are going and the way people are behaving. Maybe that's what's going on. But I also really get the sense that a lot of other people kind of feel that way too. Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to drink on mic, but I don't know. It's the end of the year, and everything sucks. So what does it matter? uh, so I thought I would start a new tradition this year. I thought I would kind of do something a little different. We had the holiday episodes, we had the Thanksgiving special, we had the Christmas special, and I was like, why not at the end of the year you just let it all out in the great tradition of Festivus, and I just have an episode devoted to things that I don't like or things that piss me off, and we air the grievances, I guess. So I thought that's what we would do today. I made a list of 10 things, and this particular 10 things, It's not necessarily just this year. It's kind of a all inclusive list. Things just in general. Maybe if I do one next year, maybe I'll just focus on things that happened that year. But I thought it was kind of a neat idea. Like, why not? You know, why not just take an episode where you just complain and just let it all out and talk about things that bother you. And most of this is it's pretty much all going to be Bigfoot community related, and I think probably a good portion of you, some of you will agree with some of it, some of you would disagree. And I want to, of course, put out that disclaimer. Anytime you point a finger at somebody, you've always got fingers pointing back at you. I realize I'm not perfect. I probably do some of the stuff that's on this list occasionally or have in the past. I get it. Like, I know, I am not on a high horse. I am like the saddle has loosened and I am under the horse, getting kicked in the face as it's going by. So I am by no means saying I am better than anybody that does any of the things on my list. So please, don't at me. I don't care. I don't need to hear it. I am literally, you, you cannot say or do anything to me that I have not uh, thought myself. I am my own worst critic. Uh, so nana boo boo, stick your head in boot doo doo. I don't care. So I've got a list of 10 things, and they're not really, other than the number one spot, they're pretty interchangeable. Some might irk me a little more than others, but for the most part, it's all pretty much interchangeable, except for the last one. That one's pretty much my biggest complaint. Some of them are pretty similar to others, and maybe could have been condensed down to one. But I needed I wanted 10 things because I like 10 list of 10, top 10, worst 10, whatever. Um, and I guess let's get into it. Hopefully, you're listening to this. Maybe waiting for the new year to strike, and we can get all this out, air the grievances as it is, and start over brand new, fresh in 2024, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and hoping for a better tomorrow. So number 10 is AI art. And don't get me wrong, not the use of AI art. I use AI art. In fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, the thumbnail for this video is probably AI art. Uh, my problem with AI art, man, it's hard to say a lot in a row, is that people are trying to pass it off as legitimate uh, photographs of Bigfoot. Basically, they're doing hoaxes with it. I've seen several images that are, in AI art, some styles, it definitely has a specific look to it. It's got kind of it's a very shiny, almost filter to it. And I've seen several pictures where people are like, "Oh, this is, this is a picture of Bigfoot." There was one in particular of one of it was a like a grainy. It wasn't even that grainy. It was actually super clear of a black and white photo of a very large creature, I believe, holding with like a stick for a cane, standing next to a gentleman. And I was on some Bigfoot group, and somebody was like, "I'm gonna like do a analysis of this photo," and they were like, "It's said that they say that it's an old photo taken in the 1800s, and it's in black and white, so that checks out. So I think this is a real photograph." I mean, that was like, are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't take a picture that clear with my iPhone, and you think that's a picture from the 1800s? So anyway, it just irks me that people are doing it. They're going to continue to do it. AI art is going to get better, which means it's going to get worse for us in the Bigfoot community, where basically so much stuff is going to come out that is AI generated. It's going to get even worse. It's going to get to the point where it's going to be video and audio, and you're literally not going to be able to believe anything you see unless you see it with your own eyes in real life away from your keyboard. So it's going to get bad. Um, Folks, it's going to get real bad as far as pictures, videos, audios, excuse me, in the Bigfoot community, because it's just going to be more and more people who have little to no artistic skills, or who have access to this kind of technology, and the first thing they're going to want to do is just see how many rubes they can con, and they're just going to start going. It's just going to start flooding everything. It almost has in a sense, and in some ways it has, where like that picture was floating around in every single Bigfoot social media group, page, everything. And I kind of like to, when something like that's going around, it's obviously fake. I try and do my part and not share it. Sometimes I'm like, I got to, I got to talk about how bad this is, or try and like debunk it or something. But for the most part, I just try and ignore it, and hope it goes away. But most of the time, it just keeps going and going, and then in 3 or 4 years, it'll crop back up, and people will be like, "Look at this picture I found." And a lot of it, sometimes it's just people that are kind of new to the community. They just got into Bigfoot. They've never really been into it before. They find this picture or this video that was hoaxed, or it's AI or whatever, and they're going to be like, "Holy cow, this is amazing!" I haven't seen anybody talk about this, and then they'll start like tossing it around in the groups again, and it starts making the rounds again. But on the other hand, to be fair, AI art does have some great uses. I know there's a lot of artists and a lot of people that aren't real happy with it. They're saying it's taken away from their means of making a living, and I completely understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, as someone who has like reached out to people and been like, "Hey, I've got this idea for a book cover, or uh, for a drawing, like I want somebody to draw this for me," and just been told like, "Oh, I'm too busy. You can't afford me. Blah blah blah." And now I have the ability to like maybe create some of that stuff on my own. Well, not on my own, but with the help of AI. And I think, man, what a great tool. And I always felt, if you have something available to you in your toolbox and you don't use it, I mean, it's stupid. Like if I'm trying to hammer this nail in, and there's a hammer in my toolbox, but for whatever reason, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to use that hammer. That would be bad, because I would be taking away some carpenter's job or something. But yet there's no carpenters around, and I got to get this freaking nail in. I mean, come on, guys. You know, it's not like I'm going to some artist's house and ripping food off their table. And honestly, like I said, I've tried several times to get an artist that I know to work on projects with me. I've always been turned down every time. So I I think AI art has its place, has its use. Shouldn't be used for everything. Um, but yeah, I just I think that it's going to become a very large problem. The only thing I see stopping it, at least slowing it down, is going to be, of course, greed. Right now a lot of these art apps are free to use, or got limited use for free. And I think eventually you're going to see that crack down. It's basically, you're going to have to pay for it all. Like if you want any kind of AI art made, you're going to have to pay for it, of any quality anyway. So I see that maybe it's going to be behind a paywall. That might slow some people down, but it's not going to stop everybody. But let's move on. Number 9 of 2023's grievances is stating facts with no proof. And I see this a lot online. I see it a lot in the comments on my YouTube videos. People, will have a discussion about something, and someone in the comments inevitably will post something like, well, Bigfoot sleeps underground and only eats walnuts and gluten-free squirrels. And I'm like, okay, well, can you show your work on that? Like, how do you know? Do you have a picture of Bigfoot eating a squirrel and, you know, walnuts or whatever? Or like, how can you make that claim as a fact and not have any anything to back it up? No proof. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's the truth, and you got to believe it. And I try. Words matter. I try to say like I think or I feel or I believe. This is my theory. I don't want to be one of those guys that's out there that says, Bigfoot doesn't migrate. He stays in one area and moves, maybe a little bit, depending on food sources or whatever. I would say, I think maybe my theory is they don't migrate over vast distances. Maybe they stick around, a large area, but a general area nonetheless, and maybe move around that area so they don't deplete the food sources in one specific area. But at the same time, they're not walking from like New York to Florida in the summertime, or in the wintertime. So that's one of the things that really bothers me is just when people will state something as a fact, offer no proof, no reasoning, even just this is Bigfoot only eats bark off of trees. That's all he eats. He doesn't eat meat. Like, how do you know that? Did Bigfoot tell you that? Like, how do you know? That's just please enlighten us, Um, and then, often, you get the like, well, I know this because Bigfoot told me or whatever. And it's like, hey, can you please ask your friend Bigfoot to come to my house and tell me that? I had somebody recently, uh, talking to me about basically, the Bigfoot, the woo stuff, they're in communication with Bigfoot. They talk to a Bigfoot. And I'm like, why don't you just have, like, why can't you just have Bigfoot, like, knock on my door and wait? If he's interdimensional, he can travel across space and time through portals, and you're talking to him, he's your buddy. Why can't you just have him knock on my door, wave at me through the window, and, disappear? Well, it doesn't work like that. Of course it doesn't, because, that would require some proof on your part, I guess, that you can't produce. So the rules have to fit whatever crazy fantasy you're living in. Which kind of takes us to number 8, which is hoaxers, people who perpetrate hoaxes. To a lesser extent, people that knowingly share fake stuff. I have maybe seen a few people who will find out something's a hoax and then not offer any kind of disclaimers or, oh, hey, like maybe this should be taken with a grain of salt. Normally, I'm not one to pull to name names or anything like that, but I will say, I was very, very disappointed this year with the BFRO. There's a episode about it. I don't know how many episodes ago, but I basically stumbled upon a gentleman's confession that he hoaxed a BFRO report sometime back. I think it was in the 90s. Brought it to the BFRO's attention, and I was told, like, oh, that will be removed from the database soon. And here we are. I don't know how many months later. It's still there. They have no intention of removing it. In fact, while I was bringing it to their attention, I was kind of told, like, oh, well, sometimes witnesses will renege on their citing because maybe they're not happy with the investigator, or they didn't like the investigator, or they got mad at the investigator. So now they're like, oh, well, you know what? It didn't happen. I made it up. Which is just like, that's completely illogical. I would understand that somebody would do that, but if the person who is reporting the thing suddenly turns around and says, "Oh no, wait, that didn't happen," I almost feel like unless there's some physical, like compelling, very compelling physical evidence, you would have to believe them. Like I've said several times, I'm a huge fan of the PG film. Uh, even though there's several detracting elements about it, the whole Bob Hieronymus thing, stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't feel like those are enough to completely discount it, given some of the pros with the video. But at the same time, if Bob Gimlin ever comes forward and is like, yeah, you know what, guys, it is fake, it's not real, then I feel like I would have to believe Bobby Gimlin and say, you know what, it's true, it is a fake, which would be horrible, and I would feel bad, and I would be very sad. But at the same time, like if somebody involved in it, a witness, comes forward and says it's not true, you have to go with that, I feel. And number 7 is the receding hairline Bigfoot costume, aka the Amazon Bigfoot. There's really I think there's 3 of them kind of floating around. There's the Jack Link's Bigfoot costume, the brown Amazon Bigfoot costume, and then there's like the white Amazon Bigfoot costume, which I think is supposed to be a Yeti. I believe the white one might have some like more prominent canines or fangs or something on it. And excuse me, I'm still seeing these things pop up in pictures. Usually they're very low quality, very grainy, and I'm still seeing people just say like, "Oh, that's it. This is real. This is the greatest Bigfoot footage ever," or whatever. And all you have to do is just look at the face and be like, "Man, that Bigfoot's got some male pattern baldness going on there. There's a receding hairline." And that's one thing. Like I have probably heard no 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 exaggeration, because I've listened to a lot of over the years. I've listened to a lot of Bigfoot podcasts. I've listened to a lot of um, sightings, and I've probably heard thousands of Bigfoot encounters. And honestly, I know, I mean, I know without a doubt that not all of them were true, but I know that some of them were, and I've heard some from people that I believe that are true, and not in any of those encounters that I can recall did anyone ever say, "Yeah, Bigfoot, he had a huge forehead, like his hairline was like way back here, like further back than mine." Uh, not once have I ever had anybody talk about how high Bigfoot's hairline was, how much of a forehead he had, a 5 head, if you will. And it just drives me crazy because I see that and I'm like, that's the Amazon Bigfoot costume. And in fact, it's the Amazon Bigfoot costume. It's one of the reasons why I pulled back from participating in social media and Bigfoot groups so much. I still have my own Alaska Watch Facebook page and Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, but I don't really participate in other people's groups anymore, and I get invited to a ton of them. In fact, somebody like made me an admin or something in one of their groups, or an expert or something in one of their groups, and I'm like, I didn't really say anything, but I was like, I'm not participating. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. But it was one of those pictures, and it was supposed to be in Alaska. It was a picture that said it was taken in Alaska, and it's the Amazon Bigfoot costume. It's like taken across a little creek or something. The Bigfoot standing there. It's a pretty clear picture for a Bigfoot picture, but it's obviously the Amazon Bigfoot costume. And I went to Amazon. I've got a picture of the suit, posted it on the comments, and was like, "Hey, this is the Amazon suit." And there was a lady in the comments that was like, "Well, if you don't believe, why are you even here?" And I'm like, "Lady, this is not real. Why do you like being lied to? Because I don't. Personally, I kind of take offense to it if you lie to me. It's not a nice thing to do. You shouldn't treat people like that. Um, but I mean, if you want to believe it, go right ahead. But don't be mad at me for exposing, the truth." But what did Mark Twain say about like it's easier to convince people of the lie. It's easier to convince people of the lie than that they've been lied to, or something like that. I know I'm butchering that quote, but it's true. It's 100% true. Because you find somebody that wants to believe something, and you kind of, you present some conflicting proof, and instead of accepting it, they get mad at you. Why are you showing me this? Well, this is bullshit. There's something wrong with you. You have problems. You're a liar. And it happens quite a bit. And I've seen it more times than I can count with the receding hairline Bigfoot picture, photos, videos. There was one the other day not the other day, several months ago, of the white one posted on a page. It was like a head down view, supposedly some military footage or something. And I'm like, dude, that's the Amazon Yeti costume. And apparently the person that runs the page, I don't know. I mean, it might just be kind of a tongue in cheek, like wink, wink, wink. I know it's fake, but I'm still going to run with it because there's some people in the comments that enjoyed it and they got a bajillion likes, and they reposted it recently. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Thank God for the people that are willing to call that stuff out. But I'm just sick of seeing them. I wish there needs to be a registration process to buy those freaking Amazon Bigfoot costumes. Like, they need to be harder to get than firearms. And speaking of that, number 6 on the list of grievances this year is encounter-driven podcasts. And the problem I have with those, and I listen to some of them, I do. But the problem I have with them is that there's so many of them that I know not all of them are presenting legit encounters. And you can say what you want, but let me just present you with it. So I've been doing this podcast since 2016, 15, something like that. I've been doing it for a while, and I get maybe 6 encounters reported to me a year. So basically, if I did an encounter-driven podcast, I'd have 6 episodes a year. And there are podcasts out there that have hundreds, if not thousands, of episodes. Some with more than one encounter per episode, and no end in sight. So, just, do with that information what you will. I'm not sure who's being deceitful in that equation. I don't know if it's the hosts or if it's the people reporting the encounters. Personally, I think it's probably a mix of both. I think there's probably some hosts who get encounters reported to them that are probably like, well, this probably isn't legit, or this is, there's actually something in the encounter that debunks the encounter, or contradicts something that's said earlier in the encounter. But I gotta put out a show on Thursday, so we're gonna run it. Not a lot of journalistic integrity, I guess, is what I would call it. And I feel I haven't had a ton of encounters, guests on here with encounters, but I feel the ones I have had, I feel they were honest and truthful, and no reason to doubt them. But I've listened to a few encounter-driven podcasts where I was just like, how is anyone believing this story? Like, it makes no sense, or there's like contradictory information. I know I beat this drum all the time. I was former law enforcement. If this person was if I was interviewing this person in a law enforcement capacity, and this story was, say it wasn't about Bigfoot, but it was about something else, and it was structured the same way, like, I would totally not believe this at all. Like, there's so many red flags with this story. It looks like a racetrack. But I digress. I think Bigfoot, especially Bigfoot podcasts, it's a lot like wrestling. If you're a fan of wrestling, there's Greco-Roman wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which are ancient fighting arts that have been passed around for centuries, and there's like a science behind it, and you have to study it and train, and you have to really like there's it's just science based and it's fact based, and you just really have to train into it. And then there's WCW, WWF scripted. I'm going to hit somebody with a chair and go out in the woods, and every time I go out, there's going to be a wood knock. I'm going to get a thermal hit, and there's going to be something happen every single fucking time. So you've got your scientific based research and you've got your entertainment. And sometimes those lines get a little blurred, especially with some people. And it's just hard for them to tell the difference. And, a good rule of thumb is if you're watching something and it's keeping you on the seat of your pants and there's activity happening every single time they go in the woods, then it's probably not real. It's a lot like police work. It's a lot of sitting around and maybe a couple of minutes of, oh crap, what was that? Or what just happened? Uh, but it doesn't happen every night, and it doesn't happen all the time. It's like in a 30-minute episode of Cops is probably about 6 months worth of filming in some places. But there's places like Chicago and stuff where I'm sure you could probably get a 30-minute episode out of one shift or less. But it is what it is. I hate that phrase. Number 5, moving on to number 5 in the list of the grievances is skeptics. And those are the people. Now I love good skeptics. I love skeptics who are actually skeptical. I'm skeptical. I ask the guys in the Boreal Bigfoot research group. They'll throw something out there, and I'll be like, I don't think that's legit because of this or this or that. Skeptics, however, are just that can't be Bigfoot because there's no such thing as Bigfoot, or they deal in absolutes. They're like Sith, and I mean, you're like, you can't. There's no convincing, no arguing. I honestly feel like there's a few that you could present them with a body or a proof of what, like literally the scientific community, the government, everybody could just be like, oh yeah, okay, there are Bigfoot. Somebody brought us a body. Will Ulmer finally like found a dead Bigfoot in the woods. Their actual creature. We're going to, we're going to study it. We're going to classify it. It's going in the lexicon. It's a done deal. And there will still be a few people out there that are just going to be like, no, it can't be a beer hole. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. This is obviously some kind of joke or conspiracy, or they're just doing it to save land or something for the government. There would be some angle to it where they would not believe it, even when presented with proof. And a lot of those skeptics, they seem to hate that they treat the subject with contempt. Like they seem to hate it. They hate everything around it. They hate everybody associated with it. And yet they seem to spend a lot of time talking about the subject and making fun of people that are invested in the subject. And that's the thing really that gets me. Like, I understand being skeptical and critical of something and be like, okay, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's right. I think maybe this person may be experiencing a break from reality and some mental health problems. You see what I did there? I just said that's probably not real, and this person is probably having some mental health issues. But there's a lot of people out there who are just like, that person is batshit insane. They're stupid. They're literally making fun of mentally ill people. Like they are being demeaning to them, calling them names. Maybe not necessarily to their face. They're doing it behind the privacy of Facebook groups and stuff like that. But they're doing it nonetheless. Like it's happened. Like they're calling people horrible things. People that are probably very, very seriously ill. And it's like, you wouldn't, would you make fun of someone that had cancer or AIDS or some illness like that, or lupus or something? Why would you make fun of someone that had a mental illness or call them names? And I just don't get it. or just basically somebody I don't agree with. Like, I don't think this person is telling the truth, even though there's nothing really to say he's not, and then calling him a name or a slur or something. It just boggles my mind how you would put that much time, energy, and emotion into something that you obviously hate. I've made the connection several times. Like, I don't really find a lot of merit to the flat Earth thing. Like, I think it's kind of silly. Uh, do you know how much time I spend in flat Earth Facebook groups talking about how stupid flat Earth is? Zero. Like this is the most time I've put into the talking about flat Earth probably ever, is when I mention it here about how silly it is, to go and talk about it, and spend part of my life arguing with people over it. I just don't see the point. It's like, why am I going to go argue with people that think the Earth is flat? It's not something I care about. I don't, it's not a subject I'm interested in. They can go and do all the stuff they want to do about it. God bless them. Good luck to them. I'll be over here doing something else. Um, but yeah, a lot of skeptics out there. A lot of people who just don't take the time to really look into the subject. I don't think, or I think sometimes it's people that have looked into the subject and just been really disappointed with what they have, what's out there, and they just say these. One of my favorite skeptics is Joe Rogan, because he talks about the craziest shit on his show. And if you mention Bigfoot, he will shut you down in a heartbeat and call you stupid or crazy. What did he say? He said guys that look for Bigfoot are unfuckable white guys. And yet the minute somebody mentions UFOs or aliens or something, he's all, oh yeah, that's an interesting subject. Yeah, there's something to that. Yeah, there's something going on. What if they're like time travelers or interdimensional? And it's like, okay, you think all that's possible, but you don't think that it's possible that maybe, just maybe, there's an animal, undiscovered animal living in the vast wilderness of North America. Yeah. So I'm one of these. I wanted to sit down and do an entire podcast about Joe. I was going to call it "The Best Friend Bigfoot Never Had," and talk about Joe Rogan, because he's got like the number one podcast in the world, if not maybe the country. I think it's the world though. And at one time, he was into Bigfoot. He thought, he did a show about Bigfoot. He went out and looked for Bigfoot, and I kind of feel like the interaction he had. I don't know who he was hanging out with. I don't know who, like, he was working with. But from what I understand, the interaction that he had, it really turned him off from it. Basically, he's like, there's nothing to this. This is bullshit. So just think, everybody listen to this, just think how, because I mean, he's done a lot for like the UFO, UAP. He's brought a lot of people that wouldn't normally really be interested in that subject. He's at least made them aware of it, maybe sparked a little interest in it. Just imagine if he would have a couple of credible Bigfoot, like Meldrum, Brockman, just a couple of people, Adam Davies, a couple of people who could speak about the subject, about Bigfoot, and not go too far into the woo, and just grounded stuff, and just think about like the exposure that we get for the subject. Um, Honestly, I think it's probably for the best that it doesn't. I think it's probably overrun with hoaxers and people that are out to make money off of it as it is now. So it's probably for the best that it's as niche as it is. But just imagine, like, if Joe Rogan was still into Bigfoot, and how mainstream it could be at this point. But we're going to get off skeptics and move to the other side of the aisle there, and go with the ultra believers. And basically, that's the Red Circle Mafia. Those are just the people that will take a picture and just draw red circles around the dark spots, and it's Bigfoot. And that is one of the probably those were the type of people that Joe Rogan were dealing with, and what turned him off of the subject, basically, what kind of drove him away from the subject of Bigfoot is people like that. Um, I've posted pictures uh, of my backyard and had a couple of comments like, "Oh, I see a couple, or I see one in there," and it's my backyard, man. There's no Bigfoot here. Like they're they're here. They're not here. They're not at my house. Like I have to go pretty far away to get to where I think they live. And I do have moose and bear occasionally in my backyard. But yeah, and that's the biggest thing with that stuff too is there'll be a dark spot. Somebody will take a picture of it, draw a circle around it. Oh, where's the follow up picture? Like, does it move? Take a picture like after it's gone. Like, show us that there was something there, and it's not just shadows or pareidolia. But yeah, that needs to stop. I think if anybody with any kind of true resources or influence like Joe Rogan uh, could have that would take the subject seriously, I think that stuff's going to have to stop, or at least uh, really slow down. I mean, I don't go to a lot of Facebook groups, but I see posts in my feed every once in a while, and on YouTube, or not YouTube, Instagram too. And every day without fail, I will see a red circle pic scrolling through my feed. So um, I think that kind of stuff. We probably need to start policing ourselves a little bit more. Maybe I don't know. I hate to say that. I hate to say that. Like, oh, you can't post that. I hate to do that, but at the same time, it's like you you know you're not helping the Bigfoot community. Like I'm I hate censorship. I'm not a big fan of it, but at the same time, like I almost feel like sometimes there just has to be a point when you're like, no, like no. Um, let's see. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just um, it's pretty frustrating sometimes. And then people that will come out and talk about something that's been it's like with the AI stuff where I was talking about where people find old stuff and they'll bring it out, and it's you see a lot of that with these people too, the ultra believers, where they're like, oh, like, look at this is like the best Bigfoot stuff I've ever seen, and you're like, man, that was like debunked like 7 years ago. It's not real. uh so I had a conversation some months ago with someone who was asking me, and that's something I'll never understand, is people, they want to know what I think about, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm like, man, draw your own conclusions, make your own opinions. But sometimes when I'm messaged, I will offer an opinion. And I was talking to this gentleman about a Bigfoot TV show, and um, I was kind of telling him like, well, this kind of brings that into question, and this kind of brings the integrity of the show into question. And he was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I pointed him to a video, basically not that I had done, but that somebody else had done. One of my good colleagues had done, and he kind of called some of that out. I mean, with proof, like undeniable, absolute 100% proof. And I just shared. I was just like, you know what? Just when you get time, watch this. And it was funny because it was almost. I felt like I just told a kid Santa Claus didn't exist, because I literally think I broke his heart, because he realized, he's like, this show was complete bullshit. And I kind of wonder, I'm like, man, did I just create a scofftic? Did I just create somebody that is this dude out there like Bigfoot is BS? Did I just create a Joe Rogan? Like, these are all stupid, unfuckable white guys, just trying to get on TV. Um, hopefully I didn't, but at the same time, I don't want this poor guy to be lied to. So we'll see. Um, Number 3 on my list of grievances is this has kind of popped up in the last like 2 or 3 years. I think it really kind of started in 2020 around the time COVID was happening. And that's your researcher versus personality. I don't really like the term researcher, but we'll use it just because it seems to be the parlance that everybody else uses. But you've got researchers who I feel researchers will get out in the field. Let's say field researchers, and then your personality, which is just somebody that just kind of maybe they have a podcast, or maybe they just write books or something, but they don't really get out into the field. And don't get me wrong, because and I actually talk about this in Squatch Cop, my book. Uh, armchair researchers can get stuff done. They can figure things out. They can make correlations between dates and times and places, and they can, um, put strings together on case and stuff, and develop patterns and collaborate currents. Like, okay, well, back in 1980, they were seeing a white Bigfoot in this part of the country or whatever, and now like 6 weeks ago somebody saw a white Bigfoot there, or something like that. They have a lot to offer. They can bring a lot to the table. So I'm not complaining. I'm not grieving. I don't have a grievance with them. It's more these people that just seem to be doing it for uh, clicks and views, and just because. And like I said, remember, I have a show. I'm sitting here talking to you in front of a camera and a microphone right now. So remember, one finger pointing forward and 3 pointing back. But yeah, it just seems like there's a lot more people that are doing it. Just I don't know. I just for to have the show, or just for the popularity, or just for the exposure, and not really doing anything to help further the cause. I was telling my wife, I was like, I think there's probably like 800 Bigfoot podcasts and shows, and there's probably about, honestly, probably about 100 people that really get out and look for Bigfoot, like for real, like seriously. And I don't even know if it's that many, honestly. maybe a little, maybe more. But yeah, I honestly think that there's probably like 1,000 Bigfoot show, not necessarily show. I mean, and some of them are just where people will take AI and then like read scary stories and stuff like that. Uh, but they're not, they're not going out in the woods on the weekend and looking for anything or anything like that. Excuse me. I was, and here it is. It's the end of the year, and I was out pretty much the entire month of June. I've talked about before. We went to the expo. We went to Manly Hot Springs. We went to the cabin for like 14 days, and then we went out a little bit more after that, like a day or two after that, and then I went out again after that for like 3 or 4 days, and still here it is, the end of the year, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't spend enough time out in the woods. Next year I got to spend more time out in the woods. And I literally spent a month in the woods, like a month of my life, a month of this year, I spent looking for Bigfoot, like researching, camping, doing stuff, filming, and here we are at the end of the year, and I'm like, I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough. I should have got out more, even though the weather was freaking terrible. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. I feel like there's not enough people, boots on the ground, and there's a lot of, I don't know what you would call them, personalities. There's a lot of personalities, and not a lot of boots on the ground. We're getting close. We're getting close to the end. We've been going for about 50 minutes. So I think I'm getting in a better mood as we're going along because when we started out, I was in a bad mood. Um, Number two on my list of grievances is poorly planned conferences, and I always see people. There's always somebody either online or in a forum or something that's just like, conferences or, it's bullshit. It's just a flea market for people that like Bigfoot and all blah blah blah. It's just a money grab and all this. And which, don't get me wrong, uh there's no point in having because conferences, I know from experience, conferences cost a lot of money to put on. You have to make money in order to put it on. You can't I don't expect anybody just out of the generousness of their heart to drop 10, 15 grand just so a bunch of Bigfoot people can get together and hang out. Um, they have to make money so they can sustain themselves. And that include, so you got to have vendors. You got to have vendors pay a fee to help pay for offset the cost. You got to charge for admission. I mean, you have to do that stuff. Um, but my problem with a lot of conferences, and they're great because you get to meet people. You can sit down and talk with someone that you've been watching or listening to. You can ask their opinions. You can make that personal connection, which I think is better than online. And you can get a little bit more feel of what kind of person they are, a real person. But at the same time, like I understand, like you can't just have a conference. And one of the big complaints I see is like, oh well, they don't have it's the same people over and over again. And I get that. I understand it completely. But at the same time, like if you have a conference and nobody knows anybody that's there, nobody's going to show up. Like you got to give people, uh, I don't want to say a famous person, but a well-known person, I guess to say, I really enjoyed meeting, which I've met Dr. Meldrum before, but I really enjoyed meeting Dr. Meldrum. I have really enjoyed meeting Cliff Bragman, at conferences. It's just, you have to have somebody that people are familiar with that they want to show up to. But at the same time, I feel like they should maybe start pulling from some of the local researchers, like lesser known researchers, and having them speak at conferences, so people can get to know them and get to know their work. Give them a chance. Like you can't just have the same people from the same TV shows, most of which have been canceled, back over and over and over and over again, giving the same presentations, the same talks, talking about the same stuff, talking about a show that hasn't been on the air for however long. You have to get some new blood in there. You have to get some new people in there. Um, and in a way, it's good because a lot of these conferences are run very informally. Very, you can walk up to Dr. Meldrum and say like, "Hey, how's it going? Hi, Jeff. I'm Beans." Like, what do you think about this? I would like to get your opinion on this. And that's cool. But and I've been to conference. I went to a comic book conference. I met Stan Lee there, and it was very like, you get in line, you get up to the table, you get your stuff signed, and then you leave. And if you want to get a picture, you have to pay to get a photo op later on. It was very um, assembly line industrial, like very impersonal. They herd you like cattle. You get what you pay for. Like, okay, I want him to sign my stuff. Here's my books for you to sign. And in fact, there was a guy in front of me that had like a stack of but I'm not exaggerating. There was a stack of like 50 comic books he wanted him to sign. And, I'm standing there with my one book, and I had to wait for this dude, for him to sign like 50 books or whatever. And, I didn't get any time to talk to him really. I mean, I said a little bit to him. I'm not even sure he could hear me. His hearing was starting to go by then, but it was very, very quick, very impersonal, and very expensive. However, at a Bigfoot conference, almost all of them I've been to, well, all of them I've been to, there's usually a point in there somewhere where you can maybe not sit down, but you can go up to the person that you want to talk to and have a several minute long conversation with them, if not longer, and get all the info, and talk to them the way you want. You don't have to worry about moving a line along or something like that, or you can catch them, or you can ask them a question at their panel. You'll get that chance for interaction at a personal level. So, I definitely think conferences they're a great medium. I love them. I love going to them. Hopefully, I'll go to I think we're going to Monster Fest this year, the Small Town Monsters Monster Fest, and I just kind of feel like maybe they should start doing some deep pools. Like, oh, okay, we're in, I don't know, we're in Kennebunkport, Maine. Here's a local Kennebunkport, like researcher, uh, something like that. Because I've noticed there's just the same people coming and going, and it seems like a lot of the local people really don't get a chance to shine, who have the most information. And then like if you have a conference in in an area, uh, people are going to want to know about the Bigfoot stuff going on in that area. It's great to have Meldrum and Cliff and those guys there, but at the same time, like they're going to leave, they don't know nothing. Maybe they came through there a few years ago and filmed a show or something, but they're not going to know what's going on right now with the sightings and stuff like that. So I really feel like we need to advocate for these local guys to start, lesser known local guys, to start getting um, a chance at some of these conferences. And like I said, they're run very informally. Um, I had someone reach out to me, well, not recently, but about a conference this year, and we were going back and forth, and they're like, "Hey, we'd love to have you. Um, how much does it cost to get from there to here? We'll pay for your." Because I told them, I was like, "Look, it's gonna be expensive, so like, don't. How about like you just pay for my travel, give me a table, and then whatever I sell, I'll keep, and that's my speaker's fee. Like you don't even have to give me a fee. Just maybe pay for my travel and maybe some per diem or something, like some money for food or buy me a dinner or something." And I get a reply back like, "Oh, that sounds great. I'll get a contract written up and get right back to you." Never heard from them again. So that was pretty irksome, especially when I'm trying to like plan my year out, and I'm like, "Oh, I think I might have that conference around these dates, so I cannot plan anything during this time frame." And I'm not just talking about like like Bigfoot stuff. I'm talking about like life. Like, luckily, it's probably best that they didn't get back to me, because luckily my daughter ended up getting married right around that time, and I think I could have made it, but it would have been close. So probably worked out for the best. But again, like just a little email, say, "Hey, I'm sorry, um, it's just not going to work out. We can't afford it, or some other reason, whatever. Maybe next year. Keep in touch. Whatever." That would have been fine, but just to not hear from them and wonder like, "Well, what's going on?" And luckily, they were talking to someone else who I am friendly with, and I reached out to that person as well and was like, "Hey, did you hear anything back from this person?" And they were like, "No, actually, he ghosted me." So I was like, "Okay, it's not just me." So I felt better, but still, like, come on, man, like, be professional. Uh, and yeah, like that's one of the things that I have agreements with this year. Just plan planners, think about your stuff when you're planning it. Don't just think about like who's the biggest name I can get. Think about who's a local name I can get that can inform these people what's going on in this area about Bigfoot. But I know you've got to have your big names there too. I understand. Um, I think that's about it. I think we're ready for number one. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. I'm thrilled. Hopefully, you guys didn't hear me slurping on my drink too much. I can't talk this much without drinking. Um, I need other people to talk so that I can sneak sips in occasionally. That really hasn't been a problem recently with the Thanksgiving episode and the Christmas episode, but I kind of wanted to do this one by myself because I didn't want. Basically, I know people are going to get upset with me for some of the stuff that I'm upset with, and I didn't want anybody else to basically be in the way of that incoming fire. Um, but again, I'm not I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, contrary to popular belief. Somehow I got labeled a know-it-all at one point, and it's crazy to me because I don't know shit. But the number one grievance I have with the Bigfoot community 2023 is researcher behavior, particularly professionalism. And I'm going to try not to go on a huge long rant about this. I'm not going to name any names, but I mean, this isn't a field where you go. It's not like police work where you go and get training and you get a certification and they say you are a trained Bigfoot researcher, go serve your community, perform your duties, get out of here. Uh, there's no office of Bigfoot researcher accreditation where if somebody does something, you can file a complaint. Like when I was a police officer, I had a certification. I had to maintain my certification. If I did something that was against the rules, or if I did something illegal or stupid, then somebody could complain to that certification board, or standards council is what it is. They could complain to that council and they would investigate it, and they would be like, you don't get to be a cop anymore because you did this, or we, have found you lacking in these areas where, you're not trustworthy. You can't be a cop. We're taking away your certification. And unfortunately, anybody can basically buy podcasting equipment and call themselves a researcher and start a YouTube channel and do Bigfoot stuff. And I saw a funny meme the other day that said, couldn't remember what I said. The Amazon Bigfoot costume should be harder to buy than a firearm. It said podcasting equipment should be harder to buy than a firearm. And there's almost there, I feel like maybe there's a little bit of truth to that as far as the Bigfoot community goes. So just anybody basically with an interest in the subject can burst onto the scene and say, hey, I have Bigfoot stuff I want to talk about. Here's my Bigfoot channel. Please like, subscribe, and send me money. And you get basically brought into this community. And then things, people reach out to you. They tell you their stories. They contact you with sightings. And when I was a police officer, like privacy was a big deal to us. If your neighbor called and complained about you or reported you, and I went to your house and I was like, hey, we've had some reports of this. First thing people ask is who complained, who reported that? And I had always, I can't tell you, you can request you can do a records request, and maybe that information will be there, maybe it won't. I don't know. It wouldn't be there. Spoiler alert. And anyway, or maybe it would, I would say a neighbor, not which neighbor, if it wasn't like the next door neighbor. But anyway, you protect people's privacy, you protect their um, anonymity. You don't betray that. And if someone, because I get contacted all the time by production companies, people that want to do TV shows or even other podcasts and stuff. And the first thing they want me to do is, hey, can you uh, put me in contact? Can you give me the names of some people who have seen Bigfoot? And I always tell them, no. I will reach out to a couple of people that you might be interested in talking to and see if they want to talk to you. And then I will put them in touch with you, but I will not give their information out at all. No email addresses, no phone numbers, no social media names, nothing. And I talk about this a little bit in Squatch Cop, where I'm like, if you tell somebody before you take a report from anybody, sometimes it doesn't work out like this because people will just email you stuff. But when you take a report from somebody, like you need to address this up front. Need to say like, okay, I very much want to hear your story, but I want to know, do you want to remain anonymous or do you want, a fake name or, are you interested in coming on the show? If not, that's cool. I still want to hear it. Are you okay with me sharing the story? Even if it's maybe just me telling it, you don't have to tell it. Talk through it. Like who do you want to know about this? What do you want them to know about you? And, what do you expect from me as far as privacy and anonymity? Hash all that out and then proceed after you've got it all figured out. Um, and it's a lot, journalists have a code allegedly where they don't reveal their sources. And I feel like if somebody trusts you enough, because it's a big deal to report a Bigfoot sighting. Um, there's barriers to reporting. There's barriers to reporting a lot of different crimes. You see it a lot with sexual assault reporting. People don't want to come forward because they're embarrassed or because maybe the person that assaulted them is a family member or a prominent member of the community. And those are called barriers. And it's the same thing with Bigfoot reports. You have barriers. I don't want people to know I saw Bigfoot because they'll make fun of me or because I have a job that's very important with the government or I have a security clearance and I don't want people to think I'm crazy. There's a lot of barriers to why people don't want their information associated with Bigfoot encounters. And as a researcher, and that's a problem with everybody just walking up and saying, I'm a researcher. There's a problem with people basically maintaining that trust. And again, we see like with, Joe Rogan, he's around a bunch of people that are representing the community badly. And he walks away with like, those are a bunch of stupid guys that believe crazy stuff. And when you do that with a witness who comes forward and says, hey, I saw a Bigfoot, please don't tell anybody. And the first thing you do is, basically give their contact information to a TV show or show their location, like, oh, here's their house on a map. Like, here's a picture of their house. Whatever you do, it gives that person a negative view of the community. They're going to think, man, Bigfoot researchers are buttholes. They don't respect your privacy. They do this, they do that. Not good people, never talking to them again. And that could be the reason why we're here today in this situation. Like there could be somebody out there with the key to this whole thing that had one bad interaction with a researcher and are like, screw those guys. So I think that it's something a lot of people don't realize is that they don't just represent themselves or their show or their whatever, their research group, they represent the entire Bigfoot community as a whole. And any bad act or action on them that they perpetrate reflects badly on us all. I mean, it's the same thing with police officers. You got thousands and thousands of police officers out there do a good job every day. One asshole screws up, does something bad, or makes a terrible mistake, and now all of a sudden all cops are bad. So, it's very similar. In fact, I'm surprised. I'm so surprised every day when I'm just like, that's a lot like police work, and that's a lot like police work, with the Bigfoot community. And unfortunately, we don't have those. That there's no vetting process, there's no accreditation, there's nothing like that. There's nothing in the world that says you can't slap a badge on your car or chest or hat that says you're a Bigfoot researcher and just start running around interviewing people and taking names and addresses and phone numbers and passing them on to TV people or throwing them up on the internet or doing whatever you do. And it just looks bad on the entire community. And yeah, I think that is probably my number one grievance for 2023 is just unprofessionalism and the researchers. It just reflects badly on us all. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. And, a lot of those people that act in the way I've described, they get popular. And, it's a lot of people that are kind of standoffish too. And they're like, oh, well, this is the way it is because of this and that. And people like that because they want people to act like, oh, because like I said earlier, I don't know shit. And there's probably people that like, as soon as I say that, click or turn it off because, oh, this guy don't know shit. But if I stood up here and was like, I know everything about Bigfoot and I know everything there is to know, and I'm going to tell you, but not right now because reasons. So you're going to have to subscribe to my Patreon and I'll start releasing that information a little bit at a time. But we'll get there. We'll get there. You guys aren't ready for the truth yet. You're not ready, but I'll get you there. I'll get you there. Anybody that says stuff like that, do me a favor and walk away, please. I know there's some of you out there are like, well, maybe it's worth it. I'll just, you've only got a finite amount of time on this planet, guys and girls. You got to be careful where you spend it. I don't know about you. I don't want to sit around listening or watching people that are lying to me, and especially people that are profiting from lying to me. Which brings me to my next topic. It's politicians. But yeah, just hopefully I made some good points. I know it was a lot of complaining, but that's what this show is. It's the 2023 airing of the grievances. And hopefully the 2024 airing of the grievances will be about 5 minutes long and all these problems will be solved. I doubt it's going to be a fucking 2-part spectacular. It's going to be a mini series. But anyway, guys, I hope I entertained you. Probably not. I probably pissed some of you off. But yeah, that's it. That's the end of 2023. We'll see what 2024 brings. I don't really have any predictions, honestly. I thought about making some predictions for 2024, some Bigfoot predictions. The only thing really I have for that is that there's going to be some kind of AI creation, probably video, that's going to basically really take off. Like it's going to be the next PG film, and it's going to be a AI. It's not going to be real, but it'll really maybe even fool some people. So some people, like really respected people, maybe even me. But we'll see. I don't know. That's why you see so many people leave like wiggle room in there. They'll be like, "Well, it looks good," or I like it, but I don't know. There's always you always got to leave yourself a back door open, so when it comes out it's fake, you can be like, "Yeah, I had some problems with that." So I completely understand why they did. I talked to Cliff one time. I caught him at a conference, and I had some pictures. They weren't mine. They were from Will Ulmer, and in my opinion, they were just like they had the perfect um, mid tarsal break. It was a perfect representation of a mid tarsal break that I had ever seen. And I showed it to him, and I was like, "Man," and I was like, "Look at this! I think this is really cool. Like, it really looks like a good mid tarsal break." And he's like, "Oh, it could be. It could be." I mean, he's just so paranoid that somebody's going to jump out and go, "Gotcha!" Like it's fake, that he can't commit to anything. Um, so I understand. I completely understand. But at the same time, it's so frustrating. It's like, wow. Just imagine, you're like living your life like everybody is lying to me, probably. And if I get caught agreeing with any of it, like people are going to fucking destroy me, and it could affect my livelihood. So that's the 2023 airing of the grievances. If any of you have any grievances that I didn't mention, throw them down in the comments. Again, here's the fingers pointing back. Please like, subscribe, head over to the lasquatchpodcast.com webpage. There's a store there. If you go in there and buy stuff, it helps fund me and my little expeditions, put some gas in my car, some food in my belly, and gets me out there looking for Sasquatch in Alaska. And I think I've got a catchphrase for. I've been doing this podcast for a long time, and I've always said, like, man, I need a sign off. I need a catchphrase or something to end it with. And I think I've got one. I think I came up with one. I really like it, but I'm not going to use it today. You're going to have to tune in next time. We're going to bust it out in 2024. We're gonna use it in 2024. It's going to make its debut, and we'll see how it goes. If it's received well, we'll keep using it. Anyway, guys, thanks. Appreciate you for watching. Even if you didn't like what I said, appreciate you for watching this long. And I hope to run into some of you at Monster Fest, and maybe shake some babies and kiss some hands, and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, take it easy, and catchphrase coming next episode.